going to wait a couple minutes and give everybody a chance to call in, and then we'll be getting started in a minute or two. If you need to communicate with the moderator, that's me, you can email at rwood@cpusa.org, and I'll repeat that later, rwood@cpusa.org. All right, we're just going to give it another minute. We'll wait till 5 minutes after the hour to give everyone a chance to call in. Okay, folks, let's get started. I'd like to welcome you all to the Communist Party conference call. Again, let me repeat, this is Roberta Wood, and if you want to communicate with the moderator, you can email me at rwood@cpusa.org. I'll repeat that later. And you can write in and let us know you're there, and we'll have a little roundup later. Email in if you have comments or questions. And we hope to have time at the end of the call. We hope to have time at the end of the call to hear shout-outs from different areas. If you want to add to the discussion, let us know again. That's rwood@cpusa.org. Sorry, there won't be any way to accommodate communications except through email. Okay, so my name is Roberta Wood, and I'm speaking to you from Chicago. I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of the Party. Tonight's conference call, the nationwide public, not just our members and new, but of the Communist Party, but friends and anyone else who heard about the meeting on our website. You're all welcome. So let's all, as we join this conversation, make sure we talk in a way that includes everyone on the call in the conversation. And the call is being recorded for those of us who couldn't make it this evening to be able to hear it later. Let me say a few words to get the ball rolling. You know, youth play a special role in history and in social change. They quickly put aside the old ways and they reframe things. They tell the truth. Youth tell the truth. And the move to occupy Wall Street was like a laser beam to highlight our nation's problems and the real causes. It resonated deeply with the American people. The move got children for doing it. These are kids who came to adulthood in the 21st century skills. They're bright, they're educated, and they've never had a home of their own. What they do have is tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. As the fallout of the financial crisis the past couple years settled in, every statistic that we heard over and over again, millions of tales of personal disaster. We lost homes, we lost pensions, we lost our futures, and we lost our present. And the frustration many people experience of working for wages that can't even support you. And we all felt more frustration with the national conversation, whether it was in Washington or in our state houses or in school boards or on TV, that focused all of the discussion on blaming teachers and public workers and firing them, on opposing gay marriage, on the ins and outs of the Republican straw polls and Michelle Bachmann and Sarah Palin, on Obama's birth certificate and the party, and on some phony discussion on big government, about workers from other countries, and of course the national debt. And none of this had anything to do with the problems and the crisis we've been facing, and no one addressing the real problems people face, no one in the public conversation. but the Occupy Wall Street focused like a laser beam on Wall Street, and the nation said yes. That changed the national conversation. Tonight we're going to hear from Arturo Pamplona from Los Angeles, who's been working with the Occupy LA movement from the ground up. If you'd like to ask a question, email it to me at rwood@cpusa.org. And after Arturo, we'll hear from other folks across the country for a minute or two about what they're doing in their area. If you want to be part of that shout-out, email me, let me know. Before I turn the mic over to Arturo, let me emphasize a few features of this movement that I think give it special significance. We are 99%. What a beautiful idea. It redraws the fault lines of society. For years, capitalist ideology has tried to divide the working class into middle and lower class. The idea that 99% of American people, and that would include working people, small business people, family farmers, as well as the unemployed, 99% of the American people have common interests that are undermined by the big capitalists. That's an important movement forward in the thinking of our nation. It's a new concept of patriotism. Second, 99% also inherently implies the unity of black and white and brown, immigrant and native born, gay and straight, people of all nationalities and religions. Third, this movement broadens our understanding of democracy to include, just as Dr. King told us, economic democracy. And by bringing in the voices of thousands and millions, it brings democracy to the political process in our country. The support from the people and other organizations, especially labor, is unprecedented. They also see themselves as part of the 99%. So we called this meeting tonight because we, as communists, are also part of that 99%. Our deep involvement in our communities and workplaces, unions, and neighborhood organizations strengthen a new national conversation that will no doubt impact the future of our country. Arturo?
Yeah, hi. Bobby, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, comrades. I think it's a very exciting time to be an activist right now. I'd like to maybe share some of our experiences here in Los Angeles of how is it that we're here now on our 11th day of occupation. You know, the occupation started on October 1st here in Los Angeles, but really the organizing of it came about 7 days before that. We found out about it because one of our YCLers had posted it on Facebook, and we decided to participate in the very first meeting, which was on a Friday, September the 25th. It was kind of unusual because I think we all understood that what was happening in Wall Street was very different from the way that movements have come forward, and so we came in there basically to learn and see how this new form of organizing was taking place. There at the meeting, we found about 40 to 50 people, mostly young people. Within the group, we found all kinds of people with different perspectives. There were Marxists. There were several who were there from the Ron Paul, the Libertarians. There were anarchists. There were Democrats. And I even talked to a couple of Republicans. But, you know, the vast majority of the people there were first-timers. And what we all had in common was this sense that we needed to do something because our country is going in the wrong direction. You know, it was kind of interesting because at the very beginning, we began to talk about hand signals as a way to convey or continue our meeting. And so I learned very quickly that in here, people don't raise their hands to speak so much, but rather they raise their hands if they agree with what the present speaker is saying. You can form your arms into an X to kind of say you disapprove and you want to speak against an idea or perception or whatever. There's ways where people roll their hands that signal that the speaker is taking too long, or they're repeating or asking them to kind of wind it up. There's this thing called the mic check, because nobody was prepared for this. People just showed up at a park, and it was very difficult to hear one another, so they started a mic check, which is something where somebody says something and then the whole group repeats it, so that anybody at any place of the area can hear. They started what they called stacks, which were people who were taking down names of people that wanted to speak, and so they were put on the sheet. And they don't necessarily go by whoever raised their hand first, but rather, though they give preference for people who haven't spoken before, or the people that are there for the first time. And this is a conscious act to promote inclusion and democracy, which I thought I found very refreshing. This is a very different, like I said, different way of organizing. It's very horizontal. The main idea here that everybody repeats is there are no leaders, because we are all leaders. This is not a movement that is leaderless, it's leaderful. And so everything that happens, I think, is trying to promote this concept: inclusion, participation, promotion of democracy. All of these things, I think, are very positive things that I think we can all learn from. Now, like I said, there was about 40 or 50 people that showed on a Friday. The following day, we had another group that was a little bigger. Some didn't show up from the previous one, but new people came in. And so we began talking about, well, what do we need to do to organize a occupation here in LA, kind of mirroring the spirit of Wall Street, what was going down in occupying Wall Street. And so in a very organic manner, we said, well, we need a facilitation committee. And people raised their hands who wanted to participate in that. We need a media committee. And so people raised their hands, formed a committee right then and there. The whole idea is that we try to organize ourselves in very horizontal manner, but ultimately nobody has the say-so to say what's going to happen next. It's going to be reached when we have a general assembly. That's at the very end. People bring up whatever has been discussed, and the General Assembly votes on it. They also vote on who's going to be the facilitator for the next day. And the idea behind this is that no one person gets to dominate, or no one group gets to dominate anything, but rather they try to promote people who haven't spoken before, and so forth. So all of this is, I think, is very positive, and I found it very refreshing. When we started having these committees, new ideas came up in how to go about and make ourselves bigger. How do we connect better with there was a PR committee that came up, an outreach committee, and so forth. And so, like I said, the whole thing was very organic. We then decided, well, okay, where do we occupy? And several places were talked about. How about occupying right in front of the financial center? And how about occupying Hollywood? Because Los Angeles is the entertainment center. What's significant about that? So we finally chose City Hall because it is a public space where we can breathe our ideas, our demands, and so forth, where some of the other places weren't able to do that. And so we like the idea of starting from Wall Street, ending up on Main Street, which is where Los Angeles is at. Our City Hall is on Main Street. One of the key things that we talked about is, okay, we're going to occupy. We need to get you understand, this is another very key element in here. Everybody there has taken an oath of nonviolence. So when we begin, we talk about we are a movement that believes in nonviolence. And so I think it's a very good starting point from everything else that happens from that point. We talked about getting a permit to occupy the grounds on City Hall. It's quite big, and there's a lot of green areas, sidewalk areas. And so a committee was formed that was going to be a liaison committee between the occupiers and the city hall and the police department. So they organized a meeting with some top people in the police department and also the district attorney. Now, what they encountered, first of all, was that the district attorney especially is a very conservative hardliner who basically was saying, we don't want Los Angeles to have what's going on in Whittier, in Wall Street. And so what he was basically saying, this is not going to happen on my watch. And so they denied that. They mentioned that if any occupier showed up and spent the night after 10:30, which is the closing time, that the police department would not issue a citation, they would not issue a warning, they will be arrested. And so the only option that we had was to vigil all night in a constantly moving line around City Hall. So that's what they came back with, and they reported that was going to happen. The group decided that we were going to go to the city council, which they did. Several members went to the city council strictly to announce that we were going to be occupying and that we were a non-violent group, and that if there was violence, it was not going to happen because of us. When the city council, the good thing is that we have a lot of progressives, I think, in our city council, and when they heard that we were denied the permission to occupy, they took a stand of support. And several of them said that we had the right to stay there, that if they were going to arrest the occupiers, they would also have to arrest him because he was going to be there with us. And I think that turned the tide in terms of how the police department, or let me say this, the police chief and the district attorney were going to address our situation. And I think that was a major stepping stone in terms of how it's evolved to what it is today. Very peaceful, very large, very inclusive occupation of Los Angeles. There was a critical time. Let me say that on our occupation day, which was October the 1st, a Saturday, we had about 3,000 people start from a park where we had our meetings and march over to the city hall to begin the occupation. It was very festive. There was a lot of high energy. Most of the people there were newcomers. They were young people. It was multiracial. It was a very positive thing. And we got to the city hall, and we began our occupation. Very festive, music, art. It was very cool. It was a wonderful thing to participate in. The issue that I think that could have made things very difficult was at night when we had finished our first general assembly, and the decision was made, or the talk was, okay, now we can occupy, but we will have permission to stay on the sidewalk. That was what was agreed upon with the city council and the police department, that we would have permission to stay on the sidewalk until we got the formal permission to go ahead and occupy the green areas, the grass areas. There was some people there who came up and felt that we shouldn't, that it was our right to occupy any part of that area, and that we shouldn't be asking for permission before we did anything. And basically kind of like stepping it up, that they wanted to make a stand and possibly confront the police and see what would happen. And it was a very heated discussion from people with different perspectives. But I think the majority of the people felt that this was the right thing to do in terms of we're here to grow. We're not here to confront the police at this moment in time. We're here to make a statement of what is it that we want to do. And so we finally, I think, were able to convince the overwhelming majority that the first step, on the first night, the strategic thing to do was to stay on the sidewalk and focus on letting our word out, are growing this occupying community and so forth. And since then, I think it has really blossomed. I think it was a good strategy. I think it was a good decision. I think that because of that, because there was no direct confrontation on that first night with the police, we've been getting a lot of support from an unusual amount of very, very broad forces. Since then, the movement has gone to get the endorsement of a lot of trade unions, including the Los Angeles Federation of Labor, which is, I think, one of the most powerful, most progressive labor organizations in the country. We've gotten endorsements from countless civil rights groups. We have getting tomorrow. In fact, tomorrow, Wednesday, is when they are coming up for a vote at the City Council, where the City Council has proposed a resolution to officially endorse the Los Angeles occupation. And why that's significant, it'll be the first City Council, the first government agency, I believe, anywhere in the country that has officially recognized and endorsed our movement here. With that, I think, comes a lot of legitimacy. And with it also comes the fact then that the police, I think, has less of an issue about what tactics they use on the occupiers. On also another very positive thing, it's been amazing how people have just shared with everything that they do have, that people who have skills in media, people have just dropped by in trucks and drop off cases of water, cases of juices, people will drop off 12, 15 boxes of pizzas. Nobody knows where they're coming from. They just arrive. We have tables there that accept all of these donations. Every single body there has been fed. There's a medical team. There's a lawyer team, a legal team. There are teams of supporters from. In fact, yesterday, we have a tweet that there were 3 cases dropped off by the police department that included hygiene, food, snacks, and so forth. And so I think it's a good model to follow. I think that, if we are here peacefully, we have a nonviolent approach, that we are here to grow our communities. That's a very powerful message, I think, and it's a very correct one. So, in a nutshell, I think that's been our experience. It's growing every day. There are weaknesses, in my opinion, about the composition or the overall composition of our occupying, but we are talking about forming an inclusion committee, so that this committee will be focused on reaching out to communities that are underrepresented in this thing. We have an indigenous community that are beginning to bring in, their value system about respect for environment, traditions, and so forth. So it's something like I've never seen before, and I think and I hope that this grows and continues, because the key thing that we're all there for, we have a demands committee that's starting out with like 50 demands, and it's all varied from different issues, but the 3 core issues I think that are prominent are to end corporate greed, promote social justice, and advance the democratic accountability. I think these are pretty prevalent over everything that happens there. The occupation does have a mission concept, or I don't know if you would call it a mission statement, but it is, we are the 99%, put people before profit. And that's the umbrella idea that I think all our activities are moving forward. So in ending, I would like to encourage all our comrades to participate, get involved, invite your neighbors, invite your friends, invite family, because this is a movement that I think that has tremendous potential, and especially in the way that it's beginning to blossom. The group here started a web page. We have We have Facebook. We have right now we have 22,000 likes on our local Facebook, and it's just continuing to grow. So, in closing, like I said, let's do this. Let's find ways to connect, because really this is a voice that talks about the issues of the 99%. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Arturo. Sorry for some of the interference. We've taken some steps to hopefully clarify the sound. And let me say again, we have 88 callers now on the line. I know some people are meeting in little groups, so it's a real town hall meeting here. If you would like to, we'll announce in a few minutes where people are from, but right now I want to see if there's a few other people who wanted to give 1-minute reports from their area. First, I'd like to call on John Wojcik. John is the labor reporter for the People's World. John, you know how to get on the line. Go ahead. All right. While we're waiting for John to get it together, let me, is that you, John? Okay. Then we're going to hear from Jim Lane in Dallas. Hit start. I'm sorry. We're going to go back to John. Just a minute.
Unmuted.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Muted.
Okay, John, you know what to do to get on the line. Sorry about that. John, hit star 6.
Can you
we
hear me now? Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, that Arturo's report was really exciting. You know, this has the potential. I've been going in the afternoons to the Occupy Chicago. This has the potential of really drawing the lines on the key economic issues here, whether we do nothing as the Republicans propose or continue feeding the rich, or whether we take action to curb Wall Street, create jobs. So I'll let you know just reporting here, I was at one of the open meetings Arturo talked about that was held in Chicago, held right on the streets of the financial district here in downtown Chicago, when they were adopting two official demands: repeal the Bush tax cuts for the rich, prosecute Wall Street criminals, as they put it, exactly those words. Also at meetings this weekend and during this week, they're voting on proposals for forgiveness of student loans, reform of election campaign finance rules, increased regulatory powers on Wall Street, support for the Buffett rule that the White House has put forward, all kinds of things like that. The proposals were approved by like over 90% of the 300 or so who were voting at the one General Assembly that I was at, but they're held daily. And they started 2 weeks ago, as solidarity actions with those in New York, and now it's a permanent fixture in downtown Chicago. As I said, the labor movement in Chicago has no trouble embracing these kinds of demands. In fact, when I was there, the service employees, and at other times the Chicago Teachers Union, and at other times still Jobs with Justice, turned out in big numbers to boost the numbers of the Occupy Chicago people. On Thursday, the SEIU workers, including janitors, security guards, they showed up to join Occupy Chicago in an evening march that wound its way through the Loop area, which is very much a multiversity, a lot of college campuses there.
1 minute.
And, yeah, the result was incredible. It was a student and worker march, literally, that wound its way past all the campuses and built up as it went on. And I just want to say, only an hour before that, leaders of Occupy Chicago went over to hear Richard Trumka, president of the AFL-CIO. He was speaking to law students at the Chicago Kent Law School just a few blocks away. And they heard him urge support for Occupy Wall Street and offer them use of union halls, other resources, and he was using their language. He said, we have an economy of political process that isn't serving the 99%, he was telling a packed auditorium, and leaders of Occupy Chicago were in there hearing that. So this has the potential of being a group of really serious people who treat issues seriously and reaching out and connecting up with a lot of others. Hopefully we can do whatever we can to build and support that. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, John Wojcik. You can read John's stories at the People's World at peoplesworld.org. Next we're going to hear from Jim Lane in Dallas. Press star 6. John, you know how to remute yourself. Jim, you put the line? Okay, while we're waiting for Jim, I wanted to see if Justin from Oklahoma was sure if he would be able to call in. He had a thing about Occupy town there. Justin is there. Please press star 6.
This is Jim. I'm ready.
Hey, Jim, go ahead.
Okay. The good news in Texas, the best news of all, is how much good labor support there's been. We had 5 Texas cities started their occupations on Thursday. Fort Worth and Las Cruces began after Thursday, so there are at least 7 in Texas and probably more. The Texas AFL-CIO published contact information, urged participation everywhere, and sent their whole staff to the Austin action. Austin claimed 1,500 at their initial march, and they presently say that the daily demonstrations are still drawing good crowds. Occupy McAllen had almost 300 people last night, and McAllen's not a big town, and it's down the Rio Grande Valley. Occupy El Paso and Las Cruces are claimed to say now that they are part of 1,300 cities that have joined in the Occupy Wall Street protest. The news from Dallas is probably not as good. It's probably because we don't have a state university. The Dallas Central Labor Council encouraged affiliated members to participate. The occupation movement started with a march of over 400 from a local park to the Federal Reserve Building. At that first rally, I was able to read Trumka's speech endorsing the movement. That evening, they camped at Kennedy Memorial, but then on Friday they moved to another park near City Hall. They hold daily marches, but their size has diminished, and they're not getting much support. We only had 41 at noon today at City Hall, and that was after the word went around that the city was going to possibly evict them tonight. There's also another rumor that they're going to evict them on Friday, so we don't know. Of the 41, 4 were from unions. 1 was a retiree, visited her granddaughter, and the rest seemed to be college students. One of them explained to me that the reason they were not participating in other actions caused by Move On is because they object to Move On's support of President Obama. As it stands, there is still no general call for a mass action that a lot of people might relate to, and the occupation force is carrying out militant but unplanned and almost totally unsupported protests around downtown. The city has announced that the campers must give up their site by Friday at 5 p.m. I'm told that the campers intend to resist any effort to evict them. I have initiated, starting this afternoon, discussions among unions and other organizations to see if we can't call some kind of a solidarity action that the general public could attend, because, frankly, the occupiers either can't or won't. That's it.
Thank you, Jim. All right. We're going to hear next from Juan in California.
Unmuted. Muted.
Juan, you have to hit star 6.
You hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Well, that was a terrific report by Arturo. A great example of how to work. And Bobby, I thought, was an opening. In Oakland, we started a one call for actions in the early part of October. Working with Rebuild the Team and MoveOn.org, our nitty-gritty party, we started working on a station for jobs not cut, which is now going to take place on Saturday of the 15th, this coming Saturday. It's going to start at Laney College, it's going to end at City Hall, well, we will join the Occupy Oakland, where that's the main, where the Occupy Oakland is residing, plaza there. We are, Occupy Oakland started Monday. Already we are working together with them to coordinate the Saturday action. Excited about the action, and we are very excited about, the occupation and the kind of leadership that the young people are giving the country. Among the speakers at the rally, representatives from Occupy Oakland, 4 Central Labor Councils that endorsed and are advising. The Teachers Education Association is mobilizing. The area Sierra Club, and a long list, including, of course, Move On and Rebuild the Dream. And we're going to have Danny Glover as keynote speakers. And we're also going to have Arturo, who's going to drive up with Ismael and bring a message of solidarity from occupied Los Angeles. He'll be on the program. I think that one of the things that I think is really wonderful about this movement is that it's helping radicalize the country, people. It's linking the general demands that Arturo laid out, with more concrete demands, especially now that the organized labor movement has jumped into this with both.
1 minute, Juan.
And so, on the one hand, you have this radicalizing effect, which is sort of summarized as one of the occupiers said, the system is broken, and at the same time, you have the labor movement, and a lot of these young people are in favor of this now, the fight for jobs and concrete legislation. So I think it's a beautiful thing that is really emerging here. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we'd like to hear from Gabe in New York. Gabe, can you give us a little 2-minute shout out on what's going on? Gabe, you have to hit *6. Let me ask everybody, if you have even though we've muted you on the phones, the system doesn't seem to be working well, so some people are not muted. So if you have the ability to mute your phone, that would probably be helpful.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I hear you perfectly. And let me ask the other people out there, even though I've muted them, they can, don't press *6, please. But people who have a mute function on their phones, go ahead. All right, Gabe, go ahead.
Okay, hi. Well, it's really exciting to hear what's going on all over the country. And in New York, it's going into the fourth week now. And it's something that started out the media, the mainstream media, kind of ignored these young people. But now it's impossible to ignore them. In fact, today we had a march which started out at 59th and 5th Avenue, and we just snaked through the cabins of the very wealthy, Murdoch's residents, John Paulson's residence, who's a very big banker in New York City, a fellow by the name of Milstein, I don't know his first name, but he's someone that's very big in the financial, houses. And we had, I'd say, hundreds of people that started out from Park, and we wound up on Park, wound up on Park Road in the 90s, and we had a band that was playing and leading the march. We had signs, we had SEIU present, CWU present, we had several other unions present, and we had 1199, and many grassroots organizations. Make the Road, to name one. Lots of dialogue. We were kind of we're held to the sidewalks. There was a tight line of NYPD keeping us lined to the sidewalks, but they were how do I say? They weren't provocative, and the march was peaceful. Now, from here tomorrow, because the march was so successful, we're going to visit Jay Diamond, one of Jay Diamond's several elaborate estates in New York City. But in terms of the occupation itself, last Wednesday, which was reported on, there was literally thousands of union members that joined in, these young people. And in terms of the young folks' demands, well, if you look at all the demands overall, basically, they're looking for.
Okay, 1 minute, please.
They're looking for a fair deal. They're looking for a redistribution of the wealth, which has been concentrated at the top, and more so. Anyway, really looking forward to this thing growing, and hopefully, we got to figure out what the next step is, because right now in Zuccotti Park, they said that Mayor Bloomberg said as long as things are peaceful, they can remain, but it remains to be seen. Anyway, it's really great what's happening. One last thing, quickly. An 80-year-old woman from Westchester today, and the woman said she's been waiting all her life for this, and she's going to Wall Street to support these young people in this movement. And that's what's going on here. Thanks.
Thank you, Gabe. Great to hear. Okay, I know everybody's frustrated by the technical problems. I think what could cause is there was something in the very beginning of the call I heard complaining can't get things right. I think that person may have called in with punching star key instead of the pound, and maybe the problem. So whoever that person was, remember when you called in, when you put in the code, you hit the star instead of the pound. Please hang up and call back in again. Hit the pound. Okay, so now I'd like to turn the floor over to Sue Webb to read a couple of the questions we have. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, I'm just going to few questions, and I'm going to kind of combine. One is prepare scripts people speak, prepare scripts for people so that they can feel like they're saying the right thing at these events. A second question is, does anybody know if there's voter registration at any of these Occupy events? Would have to tie it in with 2012. Another question.
Let him.
Okay.
Okay, Arturo, do you want to take up for those questions?
Bobby, I only heard the second question. I didn't. It was very broken up. The second question: are there people doing registration?
Yeah.
Yes. No, they're not. There's a strong current within everybody there about being independent of both political parties, and so they really don't. They believe that there needs to be consensus as to how we go forward, and so this sentiment, I think, about anti-corporate, a lot of people have the feeling that both parties are corrupted, kind of thing, and that I don't know if that's the majority in Los Angeles, but it is a strong current. There's a lot of us who obviously are talking about the importance of being involved not only in the mass struggle, but also in the political struggle, how one is interconnected with the other. But it's in the process of having discussions, and I think it's very healthy. But as of yet, no, there's nobody there that's doing the voter registration.
Okay, let's hear another question.
Okay, this was the one I read before. The party developed scripts for people because it's many of things. It's kind of open mic, and anybody can get up and speak. And this person asked the question said he didn't feel confident that he was say the right thing. So should the party develop scripts or something like that?
Well, the way it's been working over here in Los Angeles is that really, if you want to have input, it's important to join a committee. The committee where whatever you feel you can contribute, whether it's demands, actions, there's outreach or whatever, because that's really where things happen. The General Assembly, because like in Los Angeles and on the weekends, we have several thousands of people participating on the General Assembly. And so it's very difficult for people to be able to speak to the general public. But I think where we can make a contribution is participating in these different committees, because at the beginning of the General Assembly, this is where a report back of what each committee has done, some of the proposals that come up, how does the General Assembly feel, and they vote on each particular one. So it's a very democratic form. So that's what I would say. If you do have ideas, if you do want to have input and so forth, join a committee. That's where I think your voice will be heard the loudest.
Okay, thank you. And now we can see if any other folks want to give a minute or two report from what's going on in their area. So if you're from before we do that, Sue's going to give us a little summary of all the areas we have represented. Our high, we had almost 90 people on this call. Go ahead.
Okay, this isn't a complete list. I'm just going to mention some of the locations. Not everybody indicated. Baltimore, Ohio, Madison, North Carolina, Oakland, California, Memphis, Texas, Los Angeles, of course, Birmingham, Alabama, South Carolina, Michigan, Lakewood, Ohio, Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia, Sacramento, Burlington, Vermont, Arizona, Minnesota, and other places.
Memphis.
Moscow, Ukraine, China. Me bastard, it's not going to work. No way.
Okay, so if we have anybody who'd like to give a report on what's going on in their area, hit *6. Just a minute.
Unmuted.
Hello, this is Cliff Colton, Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Bobby. Muted.
Okay, let's hear from Sheboygan. In order to speak Sheboygan, you have to hit *6. I'll give you a minute. Go ahead. *6.
This is Sheboygan. Can you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear. Go ahead. What's going on?
Things are going well. I'm probably the only communist in my city, but we have a meeting going on, from my understanding, in Milwaukee on the 22nd. I'm excited about it. I liked everything that Arturo said. It's great news. The only thing I'm curious about, and I know he can't answer this, okay? I always thought Hollywood is sort of a neutral area. I'm not sure if it would do us any good. We might get a lot of negative press for occupying Hollywood. I can't see. It's beyond me to understand why we would have to occupy Hollywood. Then I heard only one sentence of this matter. For me, on Earth, it's the most important matter that we have that unites all fronts. That's respect for the environment. I'm glad he said something like that. And I'd like to end this by, as we all know, one of the Cuban Five was released. He's in Florida. We have 4 more to go, and we should keep we should be committed to getting those men back in Cuba. That's about it. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Wisconsin. You press *6 now, and then somebody else want to shout out. I'll take the first one. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, who's this?
This is Cindy in Baltimore.
Okay, Cindy.
Hello.
Can you give 1 minute picture of what you're doing? And I think I hear somebody in the Bronx. I'll call on them next.
All right.
Go ahead.
So I've been both to October 2011 in D.C., and I just got a report back from Maria Allwine, who's one of the planners of that. and she said that the Park Commission came to them and said that they have 4 months to stay there. They offered, it wasn't not a negotiating point, they just came to them and offered that. So they're certainly planning to take the Parks Department up on that and stay. In Baltimore, I would say that the process is just exactly the same as Arturo's. I mean, just precisely the same, like a bookends, which was interesting to me. And I am trying to work with a labor caucus with them, but the unions haven't really been responding. Individuals from unions have gone down. So we're still hoping for an opportunity with that because there's a central labor caucus on Thursday night, which is a monthly occurrence. And so we're hoping that, and certainly people from the Occupy Baltimore are going to that. So we're hoping that the unions will find a way to work with them then. But I'm wondering if anybody's seen any elected officials coming to talk.
Communism ends in bloodshed.
Okay. You know what? I broke my rule here. If you want to have to email in, so I'm going to. I think Elena wants for Elena from Bronx. Okay, we didn't hear her.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, at 1 minute.
Bobby?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Elena.
You can hear me?
I hear you, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I can't wait.
Well, I'm in New York. I'm in New York, so I work a few blocks away, so I pass by there often. I just wanted to add two things to the questions that were read, that Sue read, and that people responded to. One is, on the voter registration, I've actually been pleasantly surprised that you don't get a plague on both your houses sense from the signs in New York. You don't get much of a sense, really, either way about, the attitudes about the Republican Party, but it's very focused on Wall Street, corporate greed, etc. But the voter registration issue, I actually think that if someone just showed up and had a table and did it, there'd be no problem at all. Problem in New York is that downtown you're going to have tourists. You'll have tourists and you'll have some, workers, but I don't get any sense that if somebody wanted to do that, there'd be a problem. And somebody should, if you know what I mean by somebody. The other thing that they have at Zuccotti Park, at the New York location, is that I didn't see on other days. They have a sort of a bulletin board. Everything's like handmade, homemade signs, but they have this bulletin board I saw today, which is like Kindred Spirit Organization, and people have stuck flyers and little business cards. So that seems to me an opportunity, well, for one thing, to promote People's World, but for the party and others to stick information there on that board for people who are interested. So anyway, those are and lastly, on how to answer questions in New York, number one, they have coaches who help people with that, and I've also seen online actual tools that say, how do you answer some of the basic questions? What's the aim? Blah blah blah. And I've been looking for it. I can't find the link, but it's there online. Just very basic questions about what's this about for people who feel like they can't answer them. I think they're doing some things to help equip people for that.
Thank you. So now we have time for one more report. James from Tennessee, could you hit *6? The other people who've spoken, please hit *6 so if you haven't remuted yourself. James, hit *6, and we would like to hear your report.
Communism ends in
James in Memphis, hit *6. Okay, I think he might be having trouble calling in. So, well, we're almost at the end of our hour, and I'm going to mute everybody here. Okay, hang on. All right, so let me just wrap up in a minute or two. This movement is wide open. There's been hundreds of cities with actions, and we've heard the reports. people are taking it up. It's changing the debate. Every local news outlet has taken it up for previous actions that people have taken have been ignored. This is a unique opportunity for all of us to bring together our allies. People want to talk. People want to act. I think one of the most outstanding aspects of this movement has been the tremendous support that it's gotten from the public, from people bringing food, bringing signs of support, honking their horns in support, and speaking out. This is a broad social movement. It cuts across all kinds of lines, and it's a wonderful place for us to be. I hope that this conversation has given folks an idea of how they can plug in. And don't forget to bring your cards that direct people to the People's World website, peoplesworld.org, where they can read stories about the various activities, and to direct people to our Communist Party website. Thank you all very much, and good night.